We got Chuck with us today, everybody.
What up?
Maybe every day. Who knows?
Hopefully every day. Sometimes every day.
Well, we definitely have him in spirit every day.
I mean, I think the conversation we were having is
We were trying to figure out a score
a
sheet.
pretty relevant one.
This term
Yeah.
score sheets maybe like doesn't give anybody a great
Yeah, did you get
clue.
background to...
Well, I mean, we're trying to come up with a way to give feedback in a company that's not super, super small anymore, and in a way that mixes both financial and cultural goals.
Yeah,
and
it's
in
part
a
of
digestible way. I mean, it's kind of complicated, but we're in
not
the
just
conversation.
feedback though.
yeah, like the
Right,
health
right.
of the
So-
business,
right.
right?
So we have
Sure.
our L. I'm just gonna call it L10 meeting.
Yeah.
It's an L10 meeting with our executive team, and one part of that is the scorecard and how the scorecard is described in this EOS system to us is, okay, if you were stranded on a desert island and you could only know certain, 10 things about your business, whether they're, numbers or cultural metrics or whatever that would make you feel calm and confident that everything's going well, like that's what you would put on your scorecard.
Mm.
So some of the things for some of the departments feel easier, but retail feels really tricky because how do you measure and capture like guest experience in a reliable way?
Mm-hmm.
It's just very labor intensive. You got 4 cafes and then you've got hundreds of guest interactions every day at each of those cafes.
True.
So it doesn't seem like it would work for us to just go in on our normal morning coffee and be like, oh yeah, it felt good in Swift today. Or, what's the
Right.
experience across the whole day on average.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could get
So-
to be a big undertaking to essentially try to survey X percent. It's like, hey, we have 300 guests a day coming in. What's that, like 9,000 guests a month?
Right.
Per cafe.
What do you feel like? Yeah, per cafe. What do you feel like is a appropriate sample
Mhm.
to survey to feel that you're getting like a good representation each month? Because it seems like that would be one way to do it, right?
Yeah.
But,
Because my gut feeling would be to survey, if we were gonna do a survey, you'd want to survey our best customers. Like
well, that's cheating.
no, because they're the ones that are there every day. Like if someone comes in every day, no matter what, they have more of a bead on what's going on than someone who is just a part-timer.
Yeah, but I mean, the experience of people who are there for the first time also, I feel like, should count for.
Oh, it does.
Right? It's like, and that's where it's like, what percentage or cross section of people gives you enough, like to survey gives you enough of the regulars, gives you like enough of like new people, gives you enough.
Well, but I guess what I'm saying though is that I get that people get to know the regulars, so
Maybe they treat them differently.
they might
too.
treat them differently, but they might also be more in tune to where like, oh, you guys usually do it like this, and then the other week was kind of a bummer because usually the burrito's awesome, and then for a couple weeks it was pretty weird. Like that guy who came in on his bike.
Right. Yeah.
Versus you could get a one-timer with a terrible experience or a really good experience and never get any feedback again. I don't know. How does Disney do it?
Well, I don't know, but I could think about that for a second. I was caught on the thought though of like the thing about if you're trying to ask too many regulars, what they're bought into what they want. And the thing about us in great hospitality is that you somewhat curate experiences to those regulars. So they might not actually be speaking to what we do as a whole.
Yeah.
They might be just speaking to the amazing hospitality they get in like their special way we make their drink. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that covers.
But if you have 10 regulars who all like get different things in terms of our hospitality, that is exactly what we do.
Sure, but they're bought in for maybe different, like they're maybe not bought in for the reasons. I think we'd be able to get something from it, but they're not necessarily trying to measure in the same way that we, as like for lack of a better term, like the company's mastermind concept is not necessarily what they're thinking about. They're just thinking about how we made them feel and what they liked on the day. So we dissect that, sure, but they're also going to want to protect what they like more than protecting necessarily what we're trying to do.
Same thing would be true for any guest, though.
Yeah, but I think what's great about the guest who doesn't know is that they're not bought into anything yet.
Yeah,
So they're not bought into like how they're they don't have a predetermined idea about what it should look like based on what they got as the individual.
Yeah.
So that to me is almost more valuable than the person who
is there every day and has an expectation.
Take somebody like Sharon and Heather who have gotten coffee from you and I. Like they're bought into our business because they believe in you and I, and we also do all these amazing things. But she'll come, Heather and or Sharon, and will give me the feedback on what's good and what's not, but they're still coming every single day. And they're in that world of like, well, it just kind of ebbs and flows based on, whatever. We've had a bunch of, we have a new leadership group and so on and so forth. So to me, that is important information. But do you, like, for years and years, I also had to be like, I hear you, Heather, but you also know that you like your cappuccino, like, not exactly how we even teach our team to make the cappuccino. And you're actually complaining about it, like you want it a 1/4 inch short in the cup and this, that, and the other. And you know what I'm saying? So like,
see, I feel like that's the most valuable feedback though.
But that's not what we train our team to do by default, right?
Right.
Everyone.
But we know really, because what are we really assessing? Like, we're not assessing cappuccino in a vacuum, but with someone like, so Heather and Sharon, we'll just say Heather, they're related, they're family.
Mom, daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just take Heather.
Yeah.
Heather has been with us since the beginning.
Yeah.
And she has seen the absolute best of what we have to offer. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure that, I agree with you. She's completely bought into what we do. But I have this feeling that if we drop below a certain standard, she would just be like, okay, I'm over it. Like, I can't deal with this. And that's why she often does have feedback. Like, it's rare that I see her and she doesn't have feedback, whether it's positive or constructive. And with her cappuccino, like, what we're learning there is like, whoever is doing it not how she wants it isn't paying attention or listening. There's a breakdown somewhere, whether that's at the register or the barista or whatever. So we're not evaluating, the quality of a cappuccino as per Cat and Cloud spec,
right?
Necessarily in that, but we're just it's a bigger guest experience thing.
Totally.
So the reason I feel strongly about the regulars is that they have seen us at our best, so they know what that high is. I don't think it's bad to get a lot of different, reviews. I mean, if you were operating a bigger company and let's say you have someone who, Disney comes up all the time, they do surveys all the time.
Yeah.
If you had to rate like a hierarchy of people whose feedback you got, and there's someone who goes to Disneyland 5 times a year versus someone that is only going to go to Disneyland once in their life,
right?
Who's more important? You could learn something from both of them.
Yeah.
But in terms of serving like your primary audience, I would say like, well, this guy fucking goes all the time, has a better understanding of our experience. And it's like, this is our, for lack of a better term, target customer or
maybe,
target
but
guest.
I could disagree that their target customer is actually the person that saves up all their money to go once in their life, right? It's like that is also who they create the experience for, is to like blow the mind of that family who's like can only afford to save up the money and go to like Disney World, and it's like this is like the one time they're going. It's like I think that's like a substantial amount of their business as well.
I think they want to do that for sure, but it's like, I don't know. It's like Jenny's sister goes to Disneyland 4 times a year.
Yeah.
You ever meet someone and you tell them you have a business, you tell them you have a coffee shop, and they're like, oh, you know what you guys should do? You guys should have bagels, right? It's like, that to me feels like the first time guest, like the potential problems with leveraging that first time guests information, because they don't actually know what you do. So it's not like it's not valuable. It's not like we don't want to blow their minds. It's like, do you guys have like that conversation we had the other night? I know someone who has beans from Guatemala. Let me hook you up. Like, they don't know the context of anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just important to get a diverse cross-section, and then I think the data just like shows you what's important.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a tough one altogether. Well, so Disney does their version of, we've had our Cat and Cloud version of things like case or hats. Disney does their version, which was like SCXE, and now they've added another one for like inclusivity. But it was in order for them, right? So there was like
safety first.
Disney, hit us up. We can give you a better.
Yeah, give us.
Jared's actually really good at creating acronyms.
Yeah, we can give you a better.
I got it. I'm good. Yeah,
Jared's your guy.
I can help you out
for a small fee.
But they also have the money to get that broad scope. Like they're just doing data collection, and they are doing data collection deep enough that they're like, how many times do you come? What's your, like, if people fill it out, they're filling out the shit.
Yeah.
Right? This is how much money I make. This is how many times I come.
And they do that in the park. They just pull you aside, or
They're there. And
They're
so
there.
they'll be like, hey, you got 2 minutes, and you can say yes or no. And then they do it, and they'll send you even like a follow-up couple things if you want to do it. I've done it a couple times just to see, but they have the ability and the money and the resources to do that, right? And then they gather all their feedback. But I think if we circle back to the beginning of this, they also have pretty clear understanding of what are the main tenets that they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of, dissecting from what the feedback is there and where can we either improve or evolve.
Which I think we do as well, right? It's like what
Mhm.
would be on our, what would be on our survey.
Yeah. So starting there, I think, is wise, right? When we get clear on, they have some of the non-negotiables that are almost super simple. Like one of them is you will seek out guest engagement. That means you're trying to engage with guests. So if somebody's watching you or coming through and they're working with you, they're going to be able to tell pretty clearly, like, are you engaging? Are you reaching out to connect with them, or are you
Right.
just sitting there?
Like Winnie the Pooh's just hiding in the
Yeah,
corner.
please,
like,
thank you, smile, eye contact. Like, that's pretty clear. The other one is like, whether I'm going to use, maybe butcher it, but like, seek to find solutions to any guest problem,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So that is the same thing. Like, you're not only seeking engagement, but if somebody comes to you with an issue, there's never a I don't know. There's a let me find somebody at minimum. So those things to me
I
are
like
actually
the
pretty
action
measurable.
item
Yeah.
that's behind it.
Mhm.
Because seeking out guest engagement is so much different than something just like courtesy,
Yeah, absolutely.
you
Right.
know, or
Mhm.
even if you say a word like hospitality, it's means something different to everybody unless you
Mhm.
explain it really well, which I think we do a pretty good job of that. But seeking out is kind of putting you into action,
Uh-huh.
right? It's like, oh, cool. Like, I see Jared, I'm waving at him,
Right.
but I actually need to go up and shake his hand and introduce myself for the, our little social interaction to be complete.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like yeah, that's cool.
I mean,
I like that.
Our buddy who owns the mystery spot, Eric, just went to Disneyland with his friends, and it was one of those things where he was hanging out. He like dropped a coffee, and he's like, "Dude, before I even knew it, somebody showed up with like another coffee for me, and I didn't ask." And I was like, "Where'd this guy even come from?" And then I tried to tip him, and he wouldn't let me tip him. And it was like just one of those things where it's like this person was like, that's something I can fix. I can seek out
Yeah.
a guest engagement and I can solve a problem right there. So I'm gonna go figure it out.
make somebody's day.
Yeah.
What if you had some sort of weird random sampling situation? So there's a little card where every, who knows, 20th, 40th guest or it's just completely random. If someone comes in to Swift and orders coffee and food, they're in the kitchen and they bring them out like, here's your food. Here's an optional, survey if you want to fill it out. And
Mhm.
either it's just for funsies or you get, free cappuccino
Yeah.
or 15% off or
Totally.
whatever. And it's just rando.
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
I
And
like
then
the random.
And then someone collects them and they just
Right.
live somewhere and then we review them, month over month.
Yeah.
We have a score.
Yeah. No, I
Because
mean,
it could have 5-6 categories on it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
you could do a bunch of shit. You could have somebody sit at the like one of us or somebody in charge of their department. If we had something kind of clear in terms of asks, and have like a literal sign on a table like we're sitting at right now and say, like, they're there for, call it 2 hours. They're hanging out at this table. Hey, if you want a free coffee and you want to talk to me about what we do here and give us some feedback on some things, I'd love to answer some questions
That's
or
awesome.
hear from you. And then for 2 hours, you're hanging out there, and anybody who's down, we buy them their drink. They come sit with you. They ask you, talk to them for 5-10 minutes. High five. They got a free drink, and they're out of here. But like, you're just sitting there logging information from random so-and-sos. Like, it's interesting. I don't know. All this stuff is interesting. That could totally work, and then you'd be able to also see the difference between like the regular, the new person, the whatever. Some people wouldn't do it at all. Some people would.
Well,
like,
the people who
free
have
drink.
a complaint would for sure do it.
Yeah, I think so.
yeah.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, if you did something wrong and someone wants to like gives you the opportunity to talk about it. I mean, look at Yelp.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's like all shining stars or people who are pissed as fuck. Like
Yeah.
no normal person's gonna leave a Yelp
There's
review.
there's always this thing that's like when you're looking at like book reviews or something, it's like go read the 3-star reviews because those are like
the most real.
the
Actual
people you
human
actually
beings,
want, the
yeah.
actual human beings, right? It's like you don't want to read the 1 or the 5.
Right.
Well, then the people who would, I mean, even if they are doing what you're saying, they're still coming into the shop. So, in that context too, like maybe we're still their best option. They're still happiest with us, but they still have, things to say. And I mean, I could totally say that I'm that guy without, like, I'm not overly critical and that I wouldn't go back, but I'm that guy when I go to like restaurants and food, I'm always like, oh, that's a good salad. But like, I would like, in my mind, whether they decide they want to hear that from me or not, whether it matters is TBD, but they could still hear that from somebody, and like not necessarily change something if it was exactly how they wanted it to go. But I'm critical in that way,
Yeah.
Not enough to write a Yelp review, but I would have if somebody did sit down with me
Not
and
enough
I
to
was
write a Yelp
comfortable enough.
review,
And they're
yeah.
like, here, just tell me, like, what do you think about it? Like, no problem. It doesn't mean I'm going to change anything.
Yeah,
but, like,
exactly.
just
right.
tell me like what you thought of the cappuccino, like, and yeah, I don't know. It'd be a fun conversation. You'd get something out of it.
So what would be some of the things that would be on our score sheet, our survey? What would you want to ask people about?
Something geared towards, well, I don't know.
You break down the experience.
Yeah, I mean, when you're thinking of, because a lot of it's feelings-based stuff. So it's like, how did it feel to walk into this space? And then a follow-up question of like, what was it that made you feel that way? That's like long form though. Like the key is to probably make it shorter and make it easy
Usable
for people to do.
And easy for us to like
to process.
assimilate and process.
Yeah, to where it's
everything.
like staff friendliness or hospitality, 1 out of 10. Like space cleanliness, 1 out of 10. Like drink wait time, 1 out of 10. Coffee quality, 1 out of 10. Why? Or
right. That's like
something
the standard.
to where it's like, cool, it felt really good in there. I got my drink in a reasonable amount of time. The workflow was smooth. The place was clean. Like and then maybe an open box at the end. Like, what would you change? Or what's really wrong? What's really different? Where it's like, oh yeah, the fucking bathroom had piss everywhere and there's like a toilet paper explosion, or I don't know.
Yeah, you could give people like groups of feelings.
Yeah.
Right? Like, did it make you feel, some amount
a
of like
psychological
positive,
test or
emoji faces.
some like amount of like indifferent feelings, and some amount of like upset feelings, and like which that like widens it out a little bit more on the feeling side of things.
Because if we did samples like that, and it could take someone, just an hour or two every month to collect those and put them into some sort of data entry, some sort of spreadsheet that would calculate averages and like highs and lows, and then it's a start. I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be experience and then quality, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, using the term experience is so broad, and like, I think we know what we're trying to do when we're saying that, but that just that's a lot, right? That's speed of service, cleanliness, that's music volume, that's temperature, that's, I mean, for me, that's with all the things that I'll start breaking down in experience. That's person to person. So I think we'd have to find a way to claim what are our like I said, pinnacles earlier, what are the things that we need to hit, and
my big thing is like how we did verse expectations.
Yeah.
Right. How can we constantly continuously exceed
Mm-hmm.
expectations?
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's one of our things then, right? Is if we're looking to exceed expectations, then that would be something that we would maybe try to put as a goal somewhere.
Right.
And then we can kind of find out where that sits and where it doesn't. Because I do think we do exceed a lot of people's expectations in certain places, and then is it whose expectations, right? Because there's
that's
exceeding
a weird one, yeah.
Exceeding
Whose
our expectations as what we would
our
like.
No, I think
expectations,
if we're hard,
see, I disagree with you.
we would never be able to exceed our expectations.
We should set our expectations exactly where we want them to be.
Yeah.
Right? To where it's like, if this is our expectation and everybody hits it, that's perfect. Right? Like, if we want to actually exceed our own expectations, our expectations should be higher. Right?
Yeah. Totally.
I mean, that's how I feel about it. I mean, I think that our expectations are probably higher than most guests.
Yeah.
So we
Definitely.
do exceed a lot of guest expectations because we go above and beyond versus what
Yeah,
most
so it's probably
people
as
do.
hitting
Most
our
of
expectations
contemporaries.
is exceeding
Yeah, I
most
think
people's
so.
expectations.
Right. So that's where you circle back to the beginning, which is if we can be clear on what that is, then that's a huge start. Right.
Well, so with some of those things that we just talked about, like what would you add to that list? So we have, whether it's friendliness, cleanliness, drink wait time, quality, like coffee
Sure.
quality, beverage quality,
like comfort of
what
the
would you
of
do?
the room and space, right?
Cozy space,
Like,
yeah.
I don't know what the term would be offhand, but
Right.
like, right. And I'm trying to think about,
Is it too hot, too cold,
right?
too
Like
this, too that?
that's just what I do. You walk in, you're like, okay, well, I mean, think about this. You just activate what are your senses that you're activated on, and what's the best version that we want of those? So sight, smell, touch, all that. Like, what is what do we want it to be? We want it to smell good, right? That's one of the things
The five senses
we're working on.
check.
Yeah, totally. Like,
Now
I
we're
want
talking.
one thing is like, I want our bathrooms to never smell. And again, props to Disney. They've found a new way of doing this with something or other where it doesn't smell like cleaning supplies in their bathrooms anymore. Whatever they've got smells like some form of like flowers and like fresh scenty shit. It doesn't smell like they put in a deodorizer. And I think that is pretty fucking badass and
Yeah,
like
that's cool.
really smart. Like I mean, it's
For
just like, fuck,
sure.
man, like you did it. You did it in a way where you didn't
You
come in
did
and
it.
be like, somebody's covering up a smell. Like that's not what it's like anymore. And I've been thinking about that. Like the ones that we have in some of our spaces are attempts at that. Like they're a floral, some kind of scent that doesn't smell like a bathroom Febreze air freshener. And whether we nail it or not, anyways, I don't like our bathrooms don't smell, period. That would be awesome. No matter what just happened in there. It'd be a goal. I think that'd be a great goal. So anyways, engaging your senses and deciding what that is. Does it look attractive in every single place that we would focalize your attention? Not necessarily. I don't think it's fair to, although I'd love it to be everywhere, but I think if you're working your way towards like the best version of yourself, you can't ask for everything to be perfect out the gate. You have to be like, these areas need to be 1,000% dialed, and this is the standard across the board, like clean. But
Well, I don't think
maybe
that's
you could ask for all of
unreasonable,
that.
really.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, why would it be unreasonable to have everything be super clean?
I guess it would not. Oh, well, that's not the term. I guess that's where I'm going in my mind. What super clean is. Super clean is like dreaming of the ability to power wash everything every night, and dreaming of the ability to like never have scuffs on our chairs and our baseboards, which is totally doable if you have the money to spend on the time and the cleaning and so on and so forth. So I'm just trying to have a little bit of empathy, not only for us, but all the smaller business owners who are like, unless you build that in somehow in a sustainable way from the beginning, that stuff adds up pretty gnarly across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I want that.
Right.
But dude, if there was a way for us to every night or every day since the beginning, like we don't get scuffs because they, and we do clean up everything so perfectly. Like,
Yeah, but what is reasonable is like every X number of
Yeah,
days,
like,
like deep clean.
there is
and-
that.
Right.
So I'm not trying to negate that,
Or
but I'm just saying,
repainting the baseboards every,
right.
few months or whatever,
Right.
whatever that is.
Yeah. So what I'm doing there is all I'm saying is what I picture when I say things like that is I picture that level, which is really gnarly, tough to attain. But there are levels that you absolutely could attain on the way there, which, paint the baseboards, deep clean the chairs. And if you stagger
yeah.
those appropriately, like
Oh my
those
God.
are totally attainable.
The chairs. We need new chairs.
Right. Or even that, like purchase new chairs.
They're
And
so
then
haggard.
are they all, and
Yeah.
I want chairs that have some form of style to them, but that requires a different set.
Which that's where some of the feedback might point us to those things, because we all know the chairs in Swift are nasty. Like, they're fucking nasty for real, and we all see it every day, but it's not enough to actually get after it.
But if we got feedback,
but I bet if
from
we
like
had feedback
80%
from a
of our
bunch of guests, it's like,
guests.
dude, this place is awesome, but your chairs are disgusting. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
We'd
started out
probably
nice.
do something about it.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's like, could we actually just shampoo them real quick and just like do that instead of buying new chairs all the time?
And
And
I-
these are just like questions that you end up asking yourself if you're thinking about it.
Right.
And actually, offhand, probably we could have been shampooing them versus thinking about buying new chairs or like throwing them away.
Because then, to your point, if we did have a random sample of people giving us feedback, let's say there's a billion things that need to happen to make it perfect.
Right.
Over time, we would start to understand more deeply what the most important things of
the
those things
guests.
are. Like,
Yeah.
like
Who are we
what's
selling
what's
to?
the top 20 that we believe in, but also the guests
Right.
see
And
as the most important.
And like that makes me feel confident in our decision making.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where it also gives you that safety buffer of not getting emotionally sucked in. For me, even though we're better at it now, but getting emotionally sucked into those people that you're like technically closer with over the years, you know, where you're like, oh gosh, the stress of this person, you just kind of get this data and you're like, great, this is really helpful. Those are the top 20. And those are the people who are willing to give us feedback too. So that's cool as well. That means they care enough to give us something, brain space.
Yeah, I feel like it'll be interesting over the next few months. Yeah, I feel like we're moving towards trying to figure this out in one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, we could start with 6 simple categories
Mhm.
and just kind of see how it goes.
We can H-boat
For retail, that's just retail.
I know,
that's just
yeah,
retail.
yeah.
I don't know.
But it's the most. It's where you said it's
A lot of touch
complex because
points.
it's like
I think it's the most complex
Yeah.
in terms of that because
you can move into web and like what the experience is for guests that order online.
right, which
Wholesale
all of those
wholesale
things
partners.
feel more simple because what do I say? The environment is less dynamic.
Yeah.
You know, the web store, as long as if you look at the web store and the way people interact with it, as long as certain things are taken care of, i.e., you know, the products are ordered in a way that makes sense that people can engage with in the right way, like the right coffees are being highlighted at the right time. Like the hard part is getting all that stuff right to make it, you know, easy to interact with, easy to get the information, easy to ultimately buy because that's something that you want to do. Like people are there to buy something. They're
Right.
not
Like
just,
how many clicks does
they're
it
not
take
just
you to
scrolling
get
for fun. Right. Do I have to
Mm.
click fucking 15 times to actually get to Benjamin Paz's geisha, or
Yeah.
is it just right there?
Mm.
And you know, once you figure that out, it doesn't get dirty. You know what I mean? We don't
Totally.
have
to buy new
baseboards to clean,
chairs.
but the products turn over quite a bit because we have coffee launches all the time. So it's just completely different.
Mhm.
It's completely different opportunities. I guess the more I think about it, the more it is kind of similar, except it's just one place. Maybe that's what it is, you know, because people are experiencing it. You know, they're like, oh, cool. How does it look? How does it make me feel? Is it easy to get what I want? Is everything like really easily explained? But there's one web store. There's not 4 web stores
And you're not
that are all a
physically
little bit
walking.
different. You know,
Yeah.
they're not in different neighborhoods. They're all
Yeah.
on the web.
Well, yeah, and your body doesn't feel anything in them or smell anything in them or taste anything in them too. So they're like, you can less engagement points. It's all cerebral. Well, I mean,
Well,
you could
there's
argue it's
like when
cerebral
you
either way,
receive,
but
like how does it feel to receive?
sure.
The package.
package.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
like then you have that part too, but I wouldn't associate that with web as much as I'd associate that with a different department. But whatever, that's just dissecting it in an unnecessary way.
I mean,
just saying.
yeah, it's all part of
Like,
that
I'm not- yeah.
online guest experience, but
Mhm.
that part is taken care of by the roastery.
Yeah. So I
And-
mean, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to split hairs to be splitting hairs.
Yeah.
I wouldn't associate it the same way. It's a store though. It is a sales point and an opportunity for
Well, I mean,
engagement.
it is an experience
Mhm.
center, just like everything else is an
Mm-hmm.
experience center. You know, it's not.
Mhm,
It's not only a sales point. It's like you're feeling out what's going on here. Is this
Yeah.
someone that I want to engage with? Is this a place that I see myself being a part of or not?
yeah.
You know?
What are some examples of like scorecardy? I really don't like the term scorecard, by the way. It throws me off. But what are some examples of things that you would like to see that maybe are the non-negotiables? Like, this is what it is.
Simplicity is one.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about copy that needs to be captured. Like,
Yeah, it's an art for sure.
yeah, because one of the things that we're working on for our quarter is, you know, we have a million stories to tell, and there's a lot of things that are happening.
Mm.
But how do we capture and put our most compelling stories up front and overtell them like over and over and over and over again. You know, for
Right.
example, we haven't talked about this explicitly, but it's in my mind. It's like Best Friends Club has a page on our website. But if that's the only place the Best Friends Club exists, it's a disservice to the Best Friends Club,
Sure.
which is one of the more interesting parts of Cat and Cloud's green buying program, right? It's something unique that we do that nobody else does that's really, really interesting. So that's a story that we should be telling over and over and over and over and over and working into it. So if you shop for coffee in some way, you should hear about these things, not just because they're important to us, but I think they're important to the people who want to be our guests.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They speak to like a bigger culture. So it's like, how do you make sure that, you know, simplicity, like it's like how Disney used to say they changed the term, but they said they would overmanage certain things. They'd go really hard on these few things.
Hyper-specific, like these have to be hit
right.
every
It's
time.
like driving these core tenets home.
And that's the concept.
And I think the same thing, you know, it's like, do people go there and have a sense of who we are? Like, does it, so sense of place is one thing, where it's like in a cafe, you have a sense of place from your senses, like you're saying. Like,
Sure.
You walk into the room and immediately you feel an energy, where it's, you know, it's a combination of the people, the music, all those things, where it's like, do you have a sense of place or a sense of who we are from going to our web store? Do we just look like a generic other coffee company?
Right.
Like, what does this mean? Oh, it's a coffee company? That's fine. There's like a million coffee companies.
No.
3 guys own a coffee company? Who cares? Like, where did they come from? You know, like, connect. It's like it's a story. So I went off on a tangent there.
No, keep going.
There's like something about simplicity, something about storytelling, something about like putting our most compelling pieces forward. And then like, I don't know how to do this, but like getting people what they want is really, really tricky if they're not a coffee geek. Like funneling them to the right coffee for them.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
Just in terms of like how you compare things like roast levels and things across
It's
different
so
companies.
hard, yeah. Or just within any given company. It's
I'm just like looking at
that's
websites.
where some kind of AI generator thing could be sick. It's like, type in what you want. I want dark roasted coffee with the and they're like, cool, you want this.
Yeah.
It like spits out like
Yeah.
3 options at you or something. That'd be kind of G.
That's probably not too far away.
It's probably not too far away.
I think something that I do notice when I go to, well, obviously I've been on the Disney site a lot, but what they do is they try to put pictures on there that reflect what it might be like if you were there in the experience, and they try to almost evoke emotion in that way. It's like, can you see yourself in this place? Right. And so there's like pictures of different families enjoying a thing. Like, it's not, but then it's also, then they're featuring areas in the park or rides that are really interesting. And so you're kind of, what are they called? Not attractions, not rides. But what they're doing is, it's like the things that you're going to see are already there, right? The simplicity's sake, like purchase tickets. But like right above purchasing tickets is a family of 5 all smiling or walking onto something, right? And then it's like planning your trip, and it's like whatever. In this case, it was looking at like, it's like an overshot of the Millennium Falcon and Star Wars Land, and it's like, whoa, that place looks sick, you know? And then the one right below, it's Cars Land. And they're like, whoa, if that's what it looks like to go there. You know what I'm saying? And so there's like these, I think they're pretty smart in that way, where I would imagine what they're doing is like, make sure that what you show them kind of paints a picture of what it feels like when they're interacting in the experience, and not necessarily like what the cast members are experiencing working there, which doesn't mean that we have to do that, but
That
that's
makes
like,
sense.
you know, like that's what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to get you.
Well, because that site is a conduit for them to get people into their
their
parks. It's like not like people are
on their
shopping for
hotels.
Disney merch on the Disney
And they'll
site.
link you
They're
there,
doing
but
that at
exactly.
a whatever store they're at, right?
Yeah. So it's like, it's all of the, how do we get you here? It's like all the accommodations, right? Even one of them is like, a little girl sitting with her mom smiling in the bed of the hotel, you know? It's like accommodations. It's like, oh, that looks like a fun place to stay. I'll probably look at that. They're having a nice time.
It's funny because the stuff that we're talking about, I'm always tripping about dead weight in companies, like this kind of corporate bloat that happens. But when you have a super complex company that has a bunch of different angles, and you have to measure all these different things. You're just like, dang, how do we track all of these different things? That, like, not just this, but the amount of admin that gets stacked on top of
Yeah.
scaling versus we're all in one place
Mm.
and we're cupping all the coffee every day and we're tasting all the espresso every day and we manage QC just here
Mhm.
in this one location versus, cool, how are we, going forward in the next 5 to whatever years, like tracking quality of coffee, like overall with green, or you know what I mean? That's like there's all of these crazy things that
Yeah,
just
I think
need
that's
to
the
happen.
challenge, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like it can become very like if we want to keep doing, we want to do things authentically, and a lot of companies, as you get bigger, they just kind of farm it out to like
Right.
numbers and the simplicity, and it's not that authentic experience, even in terms of measuring things and deciding on quality and things like that. It's like, oh, we're just gonna farm it out to this company that all they do is surveys, and they're gonna
Yeah.
do it in their generic way, and it's like that's how we're gonna scale, because we don't have the time and resources as we
Mhm.
grow to actually put the intention into it and things like that. I think that's where a lot of companies, maybe the culture, the brand gets diluted as they grow,
Yeah.
because they kind of take the easy way out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? So I think the challenge is, how do you do it authentically and like with maintaining your culture and your brand, and still find creative ways to solve those solutions of measuring what you want to measure, and
Yeah.
making it fit within like the business plan and everything.
We just opened up the Pandora's box, We're like, and they were looking at big business like, that looks hard.
Right? Because there's
Having a big
one of
business is
those
tough.
forks in the road as you get bigger, that it's like they're like, all right, well, we don't have time to do this. We're just gonna
Mhm. Get
filter it
automatic
out
espresso
to
machines.
we're gonna filter it out to here, and we're gonna
Mhm.
let these people do that, and then everything dilutes really, really quickly, I think.
How do you find yourself, in the green coffee world? Because you're stepping into some different things. Dulce's taking a more active role. Like, how does that feel for you in terms of feeling confident about everything that's coming in?
Everything.
Feeling like,
100%.
you know what I mean? I mean,
No, I know. it's
dude,
just-
we buy a lot of coffee. There's a lot of coffee on the menu. We got a lot of interesting coffees.
It's all Sweet Maria's, right?
It's all Sweet Maria's roasted on a
buy
popcorn
the-
hopper.
At the personal. We're
I
paying.
got a personal account at Sweet Maria's.
Yeah.
We're buying by the pound,
Put it on
literally.
Chuck- Put it on Chuck's card. He's got it.
Yeah. I get reimbursed
I'm
every
just looking
time
to
we buy
palletize
coffee.
all these single pounders.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, so
Tom.
going back to like,
I guess I'm
saying-
kind of curious as to just how it feels to step. I don't even want to say stepping away, because it's not like we're stepping away from things. We're just stepping into different things.
yeah.
Stepping into different things and saying like, okay, cool. I'm gonna opt out of this trip this year, and she's gonna buy this many coffees. I'm just kind of
Yeah.
curious as to your feelings about it.
Yeah, I think it's similar to how we think about things, where it's deciding what's important and creating the most simple systems to help ensure that those things that are really important are are done in a way that is like authentic to our culture and that works for our business.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So taking a lot of stuff that over having done this for like almost 9 years for us, stuff that often lives in my head, and then in the process of transferring it to Dulce, it's like, cool, we've got a lot more stuff written down, we've got a lot more stuff in spreadsheets, versus in my head I could kind of just I could kind of like just go through, do it a bit more like intuitionally, and know that I kind of have all the goalposts in my mind,
Right.
and I can run pretty well that way. But bringing somebody that's newer along and wanting to build in, taking it out of my mind and out of those goalposts and putting it into Excel sheets is going to make it more sustainable over time. So that's what helps me. And then it's a lot easier for me to oversee as well. I mean, it is akin to the ethereal of like measuring what experience looks like in the cafe, and then it's like being able to transfer that into into like a survey or a score sheet or something like that.
Yeah, where would you start with green coffee per se?
So with green coffee, one of the ways I started when Dulce started working with me was just in terms of our overall buying plan and kind of going big picture. Is just how we approach it, and then bringing it down into the details, right? So it's like, cool, big picture, we buy, what do we buy? Like 300,000 pounds of coffee a year, right? And then bringing it down with like the data we have, it's like we know what the breakdowns are, and we do collect that data of like X% is the answer, and X% are blends, and X% are SOs, and it's pretty simple creating the spreadsheets that can outline, cool, taking 300,000 pounds of coffee and delineating it down to, cool, we need to buy, you can just go by product, right? So, well, it's just like, I'm just making stuff up, but like, cool, half of everything we sell is the answer, right? The answer is made out of these 3 coffees, right? So, cool. 300,000, so we'll just use this example. 300,000 pounds, cool, it's 150,000 pounds of the answer. We got 3 coffees in the answer. That's 50,000 pounds of each one of these coffees.
Perfect breakdown.
And that's cool. Like, how many bags is that? And then we're looking at like, right, so that's how many bags we need to buy for this year, right? And you're doing that with each product. So instead of me kind of just keeping all those numbers in my head, it becomes, we've got a whole master like green coffee spreadsheet that breaks all those numbers down. And so when we go into buying seasons, it's like we know, top level how many pounds we're doing, and then it all gets broken down into like the different products and what percentage of like the total coffee we buy is in each product.
And how are you breaking down the more what do you say? Like the creative portion of the green buying department, or maybe more, I don't know how you say.
Yeah, I mean,
so there's some mix of coffees that are stable blends, Answer, Night Shift, Friend Zone, and then within that single origin, we've got the Best Friends Club crew, and then there's these kind of just, I don't want to say one-offs, but there's a swath of single origins that we have to fill, and then figuring out like, what are you plugging in there from a chef's perspective,
totally.
Filling out that menu. Do I want X amount that are like this, X amount like that, and then communicating that? Is that
I love that.
Yeah,
no, that's like that is the creative process, right? That's really fun. And then it's like a mix of like the art and the science of like, you could start out and have it all be fun, but then I think it's just, again, hearing from our guests, like our wholesale guests, that like when we first started out, it was all individual single origins from places where we enjoy coffee from, right? I think when we all got together and kind of decided in general what kind of menu we would like, but then like through hearing from certain wholesale partners, it's like we generally always have kind of like a certain type of Colombia, like the Valle de Cauca on the menu. We always have a certain kind of Brazil on the menu. We always have like a natural Ethiopia on the menu. And those menu products came from feedback from our partners, right? So then really it becomes like a mix of the artistic, really enjoying like, we've really been enjoying like what we found in Peru lately, or really enjoying like the natural costas we've been getting. And each year it becomes a little bit different based on what you're liking, but also what what's selling. And then you also have to bring in like the cost component of it, of like hey, it's like I love like a really complex Kenya, but like so maybe it's like 2% of what we sell is Kenya, so it's like it's, even though I love that, it's like I'm not gonna go buy like 10% worth of Kenya.
We're selling to people, not ourselves.
100%, and that's really important to remember,
because Kenyans are my favorite coffees pretty consistently in the last few years as
menu curators, right? It really is listening. It's like there is some creative ability to how you form the menu, but it's also in tandem with like listening to our guests and what they're enjoying.
Right.
I would suggest you found a nice place for us to experience Kenyan coffee in the truth. And it made me kind of excited that it might be a place for us to be able to experience like Kenyan flavors without it.
Yeah, the
'Cause
recent truth that we've had.
It's been one of my favorite iterations we've had in a really long time. And I think Kenyan coffee in there is a big part of that. But
does really well.
it does. And I think, anyway, that's just whatever. I'm sidebarring, but
Yeah.
it's been neat because I agree with you. Like, people don't buy Kenyan coffees as their first go-to a lot, and I love them. And so to be able to have that experience in our own company pretty consistently through a pretty safe channel like that has been really nice for me.
Yeah, and I really love like, I don't know, the engagement in different parts of the company that me not holding the green coffee department so close over the last year has brought. So it's like the collaboration with Mark,
Yeah.
As our director of coffee, the collaboration with Dulce. For me, like, I just really enjoy being around people doing things together.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is more like soul filling to me when we're having these discussions about what we want to do. And, and where other people are bringing opinions of like what they love in coffee as well. Like, I'm stoked with that as well, because it doesn't have to be, or just from my point of view, like, I don't need it to be exactly always what I want it to be.
Right.
It's like, I
Same.
enjoy the back and forth and the discussion with other people that are passionate about coffee and like what they want to have on the menu and what do you want to have on the menu. And then I can like facilitate and make that happen, and we can do it together. Right. It's like, I enjoy doing things together. That's why
Teamwork's
I don't
one of our
have
values,
a
man.
business
Makes total sense.
where I'm the only owner. Right?
Dude,
It's like,
same.
I enjoy doing things with you guys.
Dude, that's what I
It's
told
a whole difference.
when I was at our friend Zach's house the other night, because he had a little cocktail hour, and Anthony, one of his friends, was there, and he was just
Anthony's not the beard guy, is he?
no.
Is he like a little bit shorter?
Anthony's he's
Like a little
he's probably
shorter
like
than
our
me, maybe
size,
size, yeah.
But
Yeah,
he
he's
looks
shooter.
like an
Yeah,
athlete.
strong.
You know what I mean?
I know he is.
Yeah.
The nice guy.
He just came up to me and he says, "Dude, what gave you the confidence? Like, how does it work?" He's like, "I got so many ideas and I'll go down these rabbit holes and then I just stop. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off or do this or do that." And I said, honestly, I think not having to do it by myself is the thing that gave me the most confidence. My business partners gave me the most confidence that it would actually work, because if I had to do it alone, I just wouldn't have done it. I don't think it
Pretty hardcore.
I knew we had, because he's like, "How did you know coffee?" And I was like, well, coffee was the easy part for us. We've all had decades of
Years,
experience
yeah.
in the industry, so we knew cafes well, we knew the other side well, but it's just something about having all of the slots fill with people who were down was a big thing.
Yeah, I think that's the magic thing.
Mm-hmm.
That you just need the other people.
You really do. I'm like thinking of we're at the bottom of the hour, I guess it would be.
Yeah.
But I'm like, to continue where we're maybe going in this conversation, it's like the other thing that I'm want to be cognizant of, and I think we're trying to be when we talk about where does a score sheet meet culture, is like, there's those, where do we find our way to create the system so that people follow them, but make sure there's real clarity in places where we need to have the wiggle room and the gray area so that we don't get stuck in the bureaucracy of like indecision
100%.
at all levels. And that, I think, is where the real magic of the amazing companies come into play, is the clarity of the systems, the clarity of what needs to be done, and then where's that play, where
There's the
we
saying,
call
like,
it a power to please is one of the things we've used, but there's far more understanding to that concept that would need to happen, right? Like,
it's have the plan so that you can like have a variation from it. Right. Like, it doesn't all need to be the plan.
Hey everyone, that's the podcast for the week. Thanks so much for listening. If you heard something that inspired you, let us know, or tell a friend. These are the types of connections that are the most important to us and that we seek to create every day. If there's something you heard and you want to know more about, send us an email to podcast@catandcloud.com, or head to our website, catandcloud.com/podcast, and let us know. While you're on our site, check out everything we have to offer. dive deep into one of our single origin coffees, or pick up a little treat for yourself. We have something for everyone, so check it out. Also, find us in the usual places: YouTube, Instagram. We're always there sharing amazing things. All right, that's it. Thanks everyone for being awesome. We'll be back next week.